There's a one study I saw it was done. It was in the book Dataclysm, where they talked about they were doing transcriptions of speed dating in the UK. And whenever a woman said me or I 7 times during the date, there was a high correlation of them going on another date. I think is super controversial. I was telling my girlfriend about this. She thought it was great, was this concept of you messaging your friend's girlfriend. So guys will actually pay you to message their girlfriends to see how honest they are. It's funny. Home Math he was the first person. I forgot what the name of this concept is, but it's some kind of like
loyalty test.
Huh?
Loyalty test?
Yeah, some kind of loyalty. There was another word for it, whatever, but I love this concept of a loyalty test. From doing this, what are some of the things that you've seen when you conduct a loyalty test on other guys' girlfriends?
First off, I would say that a good amount pass. I do showcase fails, but if they're in a solid relationship, if, she has a private account, I notice too, she's more likely to pass. Honestly, if there's more barriers to just reach out to her, then they're more likely to pass. But if she has like a public account, she's seeking validation, she has bikini pictures, she has like a ton of stuff, I've noticed women like that more than likely fail. I've also noticed that if they're in long distance relationships, they're more likely to fail too. That happens a lot, actually. Then also, this could be more from an archetype sort of thing. But if the guy, there's no nice way to say this, but if the guy is basically like a less status, less attractive version of myself, then they're also very likely to fail the loyalty test, especially if she has a public account too.
So I don't know if you ever watched Mac and Murphy, but he studies cheating. Like that's basically what he does as a PhD candidate. I think he's a PhD candidate, but I know he's studying psychology. He's originally anthropology. One of the things he talks about is when there's a huge difference between the attractiveness of the man and the woman, there's more likely to be cheating. But it's not always the way you think. Often when you're a good-looking man and you're dating a woman who's a lot less attractive to you, often she's more likely to cheat. That was the one that like caught me off guard that I didn't expect. But yeah, you'll see that'll happen sometimes when guys are shooting way above their weight class and they have to constantly show signs of status in order to keep certain girls. But I actually don't know if it's, like I said before, I don't know if it's as much attractiveness as it is stimulus. And you brought up that point too. You said when the girls have not private accounts, they have public accounts, and it seems like they're, posting thirst traps. Those are the girls who seem to be more susceptible to some guy using attention as a leverage point to get them to, show attention or possibly go on a date with you or have sex with you or whatever.
Exactly. And I would also say definitely on the point where they're with the guy who clearly leads, whether it be like financials or other means like that. I've noticed that has a higher probability of failure rate too. And I think it just comes down to genuine desire.
Yeah.
I'm not sure your take on this, but I feel like the basis of genuine desire is, first of all, based within physical attraction. Personally, I believe like you have to be a woman's like minimum attraction level physically, and then from there the other aspects of you in your game, communication, your status, or the experiences you can provide for her, etc., or lifestyle, is like the cherry on top to like make it a complete picture. But if you're a guy where the woman really doesn't find you that attractive, but she's just kind of with you because you provided for her or because you give her access to certain things that she wouldn't have gotten otherwise, then when a guy who she's actually attracted to comes along and he has all the same things that you showcase in terms of money or status, then that's also a likely high fail rate too.
You mentioned before on Brandon's podcast that you were seeing one girl for like the last 2 years. I've been with my girlfriend for about 18 months now. There's things we had, you have a plenitude of women to choose from. You have an abundance with women, but there are certain things that cause you to choose this woman instead of other women. You don't have to talk about your specific relationship. You can if you want, but what are the things that cause you to say, this girl's great. That was a lot of fun, but she's probably for the streets. And then this girl right here, I think I want to explore and see how this could go further.
And girls don't know, girls got to have a little bit of game too, and so what makes me pick a woman for the long term is first, obviously, like physically attractive. Like you got to be physically attractive. I got to be like highly attracted to you. Second, I would say is the amount of compliance and value added to my life. Like, are you just easy to deal with? Are you just down? I say, let's do this. Yeah, sure. It's not combativeness. There's no pushback. I wake up and that I make 4 eggs and toast in the morning every morning, and you do it for me because you saw that I was busy. Like little things like that. You see dishes in my sink and you decide to clean the two to help me save some time. Just overall, just adding value to my life without me having to tell you.
Yeah.
And I think the girl that I'm seeing, she did that the best. And she was just very feminine, just very nurturing, very reciprocating.
Yeah.
And for that reason, That's what really separated her from the girls who would, they're attractive, but they just show up and don't help out or don't add value. It's kind of like, oh, what we're doing today.
Yeah.
They don't reciprocate by any means. And a lot of women are like that. And I believe as a guy, you have to run a lot of volume, and it's going to take like a lot of digging before you find like someone like that. Like
Hundreds. Yeah, for sure.
I'm telling you, man, I'm not going to say the number, but it took me quite some time to find a girl like that. And I've had girls similar who, provided value or did this, did that, but there's always something missing.
Yeah.
Whether it be like, I'm not fully attracted to them, or, they were a bit like too needy or like extremely jealous that I couldn't deal with. There's a lot of things that might be deal breakers, and it's going to be different for every man. But if you can find that sort of whole person, especially if they just get it,
Yeah.
And then that's a winner in my eyes.
Yeah, and the other thing is you literally make content that talking about how to be attractive to other women, and can your girl deal with that? Or does she find these are kind of like I've seen as red flags also. It's like she was fine with you being attractive. It's similar to the guy who picks the girl out of the strip club and is like, I don't want you to strip anymore. It's like you picked the guy who was the male model who also teaches men to be more attractive. Are you okay with that concept, or are you going to start tripping about that? Because that's how we make our money, so that we can go on these trips and like have an incredible time together. With Kylie, I've never one time asked her to make my bed, clean my clothes, wash my place, wash the dishes, and it was just like that. It's just she grew up in Arkansas, and it's like that's the way it always was. And it, like you said before, it's like the concept of a value add. I think of Layla and Alex Hormozy like building that business together, and the same thing with David and Yulia, How to Beast, De Los Morenas, when these guys are like making each other deca millionaires because these women are pulling in the same direction with their partner. Grant Cardone and his wife also, like that kind of situation. I totally agree with you. The one extra thing is like, are you going to help me build the empire? Are you going to at least help with the empire? That's the other thing that I look for, is that situation. You did mention this one thing that makes it a little bit more complicated, and it's something that I've added to my life, and I can tell you, mixed results. Sometimes most of the time it's great. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult. And the idea of monogamy versus polygyny. And I don't mean polyamory. Polyamory is where both of you are open. I mean polygyny, where it's closed on her end, and then you and your girlfriend see women together. You did make some comment about this on Brandon Carter. Do you have any opinions when it comes to that?
Yeah, so I truly believe that most men will want an arrangement like that, like ideally.
Yeah.
If they're true to themselves. However, I don't believe most men have the charisma, value, or leverage in order to exercise something like that. And that's primarily due to the social conditioning of potentially the woman who they're dealing with, and or just overall society, really. So it's I made a video on my Patreon page on how to fully get this arrangement. And I would say, as a guy, you have to be in a high point of leverage in comparison to the girl you're with, if you want her to be okay with this and agree to do it, because it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
Like most girls who you date or casually see or even make your girlfriend, if you present this to them, immediately they're going to be like, what? No, I'm not doing that. You almost have to like sell the idea, but even then, like if they finally get to a point of agreement with it, just potentially expect to like deal with potential drama or like changing of minds, emotional stuff. Because I don't know, me personally, anytime like I presented that, especially when I was seeing girls just casually, like even girls who I didn't give a title or exclusivity to, they still had a problem with me seeing other women. I think it is due to like emotions and their idea of what a relationship is, and monogamy programming, and so many other aspects. So if you're going to arrange it, it's not going to be easy, and you have to have a lot of leverage, is all I would say.
So the leverage point, I totally agree with. The other point I would tell you though is like screen for girls who are so bisexuality for men is pretty binary. Like they did a study with eHarmony where they found that men who claim to be bisexual were almost entirely messaging other men. So bisexuality with men is actually very rare. We're talking like 2%. Bisexuality for women is actually a spectrum. You'll have women that will experiment in college, and then some women who like literally just tolerate penis so they can have a threesome. Like you have this huge spectrum. Some women who are like, they have threesomes when they're on mom, And some girls will have threesomes like all the time. And what I found is that if you can find a woman who's above that 50% threshold, meaning she very much likes women, has gone on dates with women where there's no men involved. Lou Williams, he was a point guard for the Hawks. He's openly dating a lesbian couple at the same time. And the guys were like, how are you able to pull this off? He goes, I'm not pulling off shit. It's like they're the ones who are doing it. What I found is that I don't see women without my girlfriend. My girlfriend and I will see women together. And so in doing so, the main thing that I found is if the two women are really attracted to each other, almost to where like you're an afterthought, that's where I see it works the best. That's where I see that in addition to the leverage point.
Yeah, that's actually a point that I mentioned in the video I created too about this topic is that, if you find a bisexual girl, like presenting that is going to be a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because clearly they like women too. So the ability to now exercise your like for the same gender alongside with me, like, let's try it out, let's do it. And for the most part, I've also noticed that bisexual women tend to be more sexually open due to their experiences with their sexuality. And for that reason, they tend to be in more agreement for arrangements like that, for sure.
And I really like this idea was if you're doing well with women and you're showing these high status, signs, being a douchebag on top of it is not helpful. It's not a good idea. And you talked about a level of humility. You'll go on a date with a girl and she will assume because you're a good looking guy that you're going to be arrogant and only talk about yourself, but you break rapport, you subvert expectations by actually being very humble and a good listener.
That's pretty much my game plan, man. Go in, ask questions, listen, give stories, tell my experiences, but mostly keep the conversation focused about her. If I'm getting I talk so much about myself, like, what about you? Like, tell me about yourself. Like, that's how I know that, it's a good sign. And one thing I constantly hear too is that, you just make me feel really comfortable. You're easy to talk to, is what they say. And so if they're saying that, that's definitely a good sign. That's important of social skills, man. Even if you're a handsome guy, if you don't have the ability to make women feel comfortable through communication, like you're not going to go that far unless she's just like really attracted to you.
Yeah.
Even then it's going to be short lived. But if you can have that ability to just build that rapport, make women feel comfortable when they're with you and have that humility, like you said, you can really break some barriers down.
You talked about that. Like, I'm sure you've talked to some attractive women and they'll talk about a guy who's really good looking and then he opened his mouth and then she wasn't attracted to him anymore because he kept talking about himself. I think because when we talked about male over perception bias, female under perception bias, I think because men, we're so attracted to women because of their physical attractiveness, we believe women feel the same way about us. And like a lot of times if a girl's really attractive and she says crazy stuff, we'll probably still sleep with her. But like women often don't do the same thing. And we as men don't grasp that because for us as men, there's just like kind of one stat we look for. There's one attribute, right? Like if you ever play Madden, like speed at 99, right? That's just one, physical attractiveness. But for women, it can be charisma, it can be intelligence, it can be height, it can be looks, it can be money, it can be all these different things that'll happen, and men can screw it up. And there's one study I saw it was done. It was in the book Dataclysm, where they talked about they were doing transcriptions of speed dating in the UK, and whenever a woman said me or I 7 times during the date, there was a high correlation of them going on another date.
Wow. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Classic book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. People like talking about themselves.
Exactly.
Just the way it is. You can even correlate that to like networking and meeting other men or just creating conversation in general. Ask questions, let the other person talk, give your take, give your experiences. But at the end of the day, people love to talk about themselves. So I would agree with that. Absolutely.